Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Seattle socialist Mayor-elect Katie Wilson thinks she can bring back the Sonics? Is it more clickbait or is it for real? But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
I think that a lot of the reason that a lot of the stupidity happens here in Seattle is because our media sucks so bad. I truly, truly believe it. I believe that if we didn't have such a lousy media, so much of this insanity would be covered and people would know about it. I believe our media is intentionally lying to all of you or lying by omission. It's crazy to me, absolutely insane to me, this story that I want to call an exclusive, but I can't because everybody in the media had access to the same documents I did. And as far as I know, I'm the only one to cover it, aside from our friend Jonathan Cho. What's funny is actually, I'll come to this later, Jonathan Cho and I posted the story within 5 minutes of each other, but both of us you would consider more in the independent journalist realm than traditional media. Let me lay out the facts for you. King County prosecutors say a Bellevue police officer was stabbed after being deliberately lured to a scene by a fake 911 call from a homeless Sierra Leone national, an attack they described as calculated and extremely dangerous. Now, you may have heard some of these details already. You may have heard some of this. On Monday, King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office charged Mohammed More Bangura, 38, with assault in the first degree with a deadly weapon enhancement and assault in the second degree with a deadly weapon enhancement. Prosecutors asked a judge to hold Bangura on $5 million bail, arguing he poses a serious risk to public safety. According to charging documents we got a hold of, the incident began shortly after noon when the regional 911 dispatch center received a call reporting a verbal domestic dispute at the Bellevue Transit Center. The caller refused to identify himself, provided vague information, and disconnected when pressed for details. Investigators later determined the call was made by Bangura himself. The caller asked dispatchers to send an officer or two and suspected there might be weapons involved despite offering no specifics. Officer Sean Weinbrenner and Officer Spangolo were dispatched, believed they were responding to a routine disturbance call. Prosecutors say that belief was exactly what Bangura intended. Quote, the deliberateness of this attack having lured police officers to his location by making a bogus 911 call demonstrates the lengths this defendant will go to injure others, end quote. Body-worn camera footage reviewed by investigators. And by the way, as if that wasn't enough, the information was confirmed by a witness. Shows the officers calmly contacting Bangura when they arrived. He appeared cooperative and showed no outward signs of aggression. Seconds into the interaction, however, the encounter turned violent. Bangura suddenly reached into his jacket, pulled out a kitchen knife, and lunged at Officer Spangolo in a downward motion. When Spangolo avoided the strike, what happened next? You had Bangolo. What happened was he goes trying to stab and attack Officer Weinbrenner. Prosecutors say Bangura slashed Weinbrenner's face and then stabbed him multiple times as the officer fell to the ground. Officer Spangolo fired his service weapon, striking Bangura and stopping the attack. Officer Weinbrenner suffered a deep facial laceration, a broken clavicle, and a dislocated shoulder. Both the officer and Bangura were taken to Harborview Medical Center. Bangura was identified from his phone number and Washington driver's license. Let's pause right here for a minute. So just to recap, you have a guy who lured two police officers to a transit center so he could try and stab them to death, almost killed one of them, left them with scars for life most likely, and this guy, what happens? What do you see? The media is reporting it as officer-involved shooting. Now, I will give you that as an excuse for, 5 minutes, Mike? Something like that until you get all the details. Officer-involved shooting, sure, that's something that happens. But immediately, the anti-police lunatics were all over this. They shot somebody. He was an innocent bystander. It's up to the media to clarify this. It's up to the media to say, here's what actually happened. And the media fell down on the job. Now, this guy, they had video of him, they had pictures of him, and they went to go find this guy. They had the video from the body cams. They knew that this guy had a Washington driver's license because of his phone number. They were able to look him up. Apparently, they also found something else. His passport. His passport is that of Sierra Leone, not of the United States of America. Okay. Investigators say Bangura appeared to be acting out of anger toward Bellevue police. Court records show he filed a complaint against an unrelated Bellevue officer the day before the stabbing. Rather than allowing that complaint process to continue, prosecutors say Bangura armed himself and staged a fake emergency call. Seconds before attacking, Bangura told officers, Officer X put a false case on me, according to the probable cause statement. Bangura had no prior criminal cases referred to the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office before this incident. Stop right there. It doesn't mean he had no criminal history. It means the King County prosecutors never had charges referred to them. However, police previously encountered Bangura in September while he was sleeping on the property of the First Congressional Church, located near the Bellevue Transit Center. Oh, homeless, immigrant, non-citizen, violent guy. This all seems to be stuff that the lamestream media left out of their coverage. Bangura is scheduled to be arraigned on Thursday in the King County Superior Court. Prosecutors argue that the alleged use of false 911 calls to ambush responding officers makes this case especially alarming. Quote, these officers believe they were responding to help someone in need. Instead, they were walking into a planned act of violence. Now, why am I so mad about this? Ari, this is the usual thing. You contacted your friends in ICE. You found out the details because his name was Muhammad. You got a little bit of Islamophobia going there. That's not what happened. That's not what happened at all. Every day, I get tons of press releases, and it's just me and Mike here. Mike handles the tech stuff. I handle the news stuff. Mike sends me stories when he thinks they might be interesting to me. But overall, I get all these press releases, have to go through all of them, have to read all of them, and then figure out which ones will make good content for the show. I found the press release, charging documents, everything in my email after yesterday's show. I knew there had been an officer-involved shooting a couple days ago. I knew the guy was up for charging yesterday, but I said, once I get the charging documents, then we'll see what actually happened, because all the activists are going bonkers crazy, and I want to make sure I'm not buying into their false narrative, so I'll read this when I go home tomorrow night. I finish the show. I go home. I know the email's waiting there. I have dinner. I catch up with my wife. I ask my daughter how school was, and then I start reading the charging documents. Here is what is in the charging documents. I'm just going to read it verbatim. Detective Sergeev positively identified the individual on Bellevue PD officers' body-worn cameras as Bangura. Furthermore, at the crime scene, Washington State Patrol detectives, we'll come back to why they were there, located Bangura's Sierra Leone passport with his full name and photograph, which matches the person in the officer's video and the DOL photograph. It's right there in the press release, in the charging documents that was sent out to every single member of the Seattle media. What do I immediately do once I read that? Because until now, I didn't know about the non-citizen aspect of this. The first thing I do, cut and paste the guy's name and other essential information, forward it to ICE. Haven't heard back from ICE yet, but I assume I will. They get back to you when they feel like getting back to you. That's number one. Number two, I said, wait a minute. This guy's not a U.S. citizen. I didn't see that mentioned in any news outlet in Seattle. So one by one, I go to every single TV outlet. Not mentioned. They didn't think that was relevant to mention at all. Then I go to the Seattle Times. And this is when I really blew my gasket on this insanity because I was losing it. Here's the headline that Sarah Jean Green, Seattle Times staff reporter, has on her article. Now, I'm not up to her yet. We'll get to her in a second because sometimes your editor picks a headline. I've had people pick headlines for me before that I didn't completely agree with. Man shot by Bellevue police officer lured cops with bogus 911 call, prosecutors say. Right there, the way you wrote this, you put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. Up front, you put man shot by Bellevue police officer just to antagonize the left. Then at the end, you write prosecutors say as if prosecutors are claiming this, but it's not on the body camera footage or anywhere else. Okay, what your headline should have said is officer recovering or officer in hospital or officer stabbed or officer released from hospital after being lured by bogus 911 call. You didn't even have to mention that the guy isn't a U.S. citizen. But your phrasing there shows exactly what you mean. This article is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 paragraphs. In the 18th paragraph, which is just one line, which is the last line of the article, here's what it says by Sarah Jean Green at the Seattle Times. Police recovered a knife and Bangura's passport at the scene, the charges say. End of article. Contact Sarah Green. She is a law and justice reporter at the Seattle Times who has spent the bulk of her 25-plus years at the newspaper covering crime and courts. If you've spent 25 years in journalism, why are you omitting key details? If you had buried it in the 18th paragraph, his Sierra Leone passport was found at the end, okay, I wouldn't have as much to be mad about. But this means you read the charging documents and you decided to omit the fact that the guy is not a U.S. citizen, whether legal or not, that is relevant to the case. You know the other thing they leave out? That he's homeless. That's nowhere to be found in any of this. They talk about some fight he had at a church, which police responded to. The Seattle Times, the paper of record for our area, intentionally left out this information. Now, for this reporter's credit, maybe one of her editors pulled it. But if one of her editors pulled it, then all of you who say to me all the time, Ari, the editorial board of the Seattle Times, is much more conservative than their staff, that's your conservative editorial board, which left out this angle. We don't know if the guy's here legally or not, but why are we trying to make it sound like he's a Bellevue man and not a Sierra Leone man? If I go to Mexico, no, better yet, if I go to Europe and I kill somebody in Paris, is it going to say Paris man kills other Paris man? No. It'll say crazy lunatic cowboy American radio host kills a Paris man. That's what it'll say. Oh, no, wait. Sorry, Mike, I'm doing this wrong, right? Lunatic cowboy American Jewish supporting Israeli loving radio host kills mostly innocent Palestinian Paris man. That's what it'll say, right? That's what it'll say. The fact that they left out these key details shows you the media isn't interested in the truth. This is a story. 2 police officers were lured by a fake 911 call. One of them was pretty horrifically stabbed. I'm glad he's going to be recovering. And the media left out that the guy is homeless and the guy is from Sierra Leone and he is not a U.S. citizen, whether he's legally or not. And you and I both know how this story is likely to end. Is that an assumption? Abso-flippin-lutely. But so far, I've got a pretty good track record with these things. If the guy was in the country legally, then he'd probably have a job. Then he'd probably have a home. Then he'd probably have a place to be. Instead, this guy is homeless, living at a church shelter near a transit center where he's ambushing police officers. And the last time police officers were called to that specific shelter, which, by the way, I got to check if this is one of the controversial shelters. When police officers were called to that specific shelter, he was involved in an altercation. Your media is intentionally leaving out information because they don't want you to have it. They don't want you to have it at all. It's nauseating. What is their motivation? That somebody like Ari Hoffman is going to go out there and say, see, it's another dangerous illegal alien. We don't even know his immigration status, but the fact that he is homeless and the fact that he is from Sierra Leone was completely left out of the narrative. And the fact that this press release and these charging documents were sent to the entire media, and the only two who took any time whatsoever to read them was me and Jonathan Cho. The only two who mentioned this information is me and Jonathan Cho. And what I find completely crazy is all these outlets probably read it and probably said, we're not posting it, as proven by the Seattle Times, which admits there was a passport. Why is that relevant to the story? Why is that relevant to the story? But here's something else. The immigrant had a Washington driver's license. Is he an illegal alien who got a Washington driver's license? Can he vote thanks to motor voter laws here in Washington? And these are all legitimate questions that our media did not ask, which means you failed at journalism. I got into this business by accident. I have no formal training in journalism whatsoever, other than the stuff I learned while doing the job when I decided to do a career pivot. And yet, I knew to ask these basic questions. Why didn't the Seattle Times? Why didn't the TV outlets? Why didn't anybody in our local media? Because they have a narrative, and they're sticking with that narrative. And I can prove it. The illegal alien truck driver who killed somebody on SR 167, who killed somebody in Auburn, that guy, all of them ignored the fact that he's an illegal alien who killed somebody who, for all we know, has fled the country already because he was released by a radical King County judge who agrees with the sanctuary policies here in Washington. Why is the media not covering this? Because it goes against their narrative. Because they don't want to cover it. Because they don't want to even cover it. How many times has this happened? I notice I haven't heard from the lunatic activists today, who are the ones who were saying, oh, officer shot somebody, it's wrong. Oh, George Floyd, blah, 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 blah. Haven't heard from them. Turns out you're mostly innocent, non-citizen, homeless guy lured police with a fake 911 call. This story destroys all of their BS narratives. So why do you think they left out this information? I know what I think. Give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss, including, is Katie Wilson working on bringing back the Sonics, or is this another clickbaity headline? We'll tell you what's going on when we come back, plus your calls. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I hate to use a term the teens use, but I literally LOL'd, laughed out loud when I saw this post from Socialist Seattle Mayor-elect Katie Wilson. She posted a picture with herself and Oklahoma City Mayor David Holt. Quote, got off to a rocky start with Oklahoma City Mayor Holt, but he praised Seattle profusely and said he would always support our efforts to get a new Sonics team. Okay. All right. Really? We're doing this now? I can't tell if she thinks she's Click Daniels or if she thinks she's Bruce Harrell here. This is, in fact, actually the Divest SPD account, which hates me, hates police, loves Katie Wilson, was mad at her, saying, what, are you trying to be Bruce Harrell with this? Yeah, every 5 minutes, oh, the Sonics might be coming back. The Sonics are coming back. Okay, if you're the NBA, let's look at Seattle right now. You've got the Portland Trailblazers, which has this market area sort of right now. You've got other options. Should we send a team to Seattle where Microsoft might be leaving, Amazon might be leaving, all these corporations might be leaving, and we might be about to get hit with a massive payroll tax, and we pay them basketball players a lot of money? Should we go to Seattle if we have an expansion team, or should we go somewhere else? That's a real toughie. I don't know. What do you think we should do? She also wrote, Holt is also the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and he offered my new mayor cohort some excellent advice. Don't be corrupt. Don't have an affair, and don't be a word I can't say on the radio that starts with A. Great advice. I thought that's just the no-brainer part of all this. Are those the 3 rules for a mayor? Because last time I checked, a lot of them ain't so good at that. Wow, what sage advice from Oklahoma City Mayor Holt. Do you really think the Sonics are going to come back under a Katie Wilson regime? Yes? No? Maybe so? This is bonkers crazy. I don't believe there's any chance they're coming back with the taxes being what they are, especially because who's going to sponsor things? Who's going to buy the luxury boxes if there's no companies left here? If the big companies don't come here, they're not spending $10,000 or more a game. And plus, you're really going to do this clickbaity nonsense again? Now, all of a sudden, people are going to have expectations. You're going to bring back the Sonics. So now when you fail or decide to bring a basketball out from behind a podium at your State of the City address, people are just going to make fun of you. Yet another failure. Bruce Harrell was trying for, his entire career to bring back the Sonics. Jenny Durkin tried, and Jenny Durkin failed. Turns out, when you make a good business environment, then the businesses want to come. Then the teams want to come. Then everybody else wants to come. But now with the massive amount of people that are moving out of Washington and the exodus of the corporations. So, Katie just wants the Sonics back so she can tax the Sonics. Let's be real about this. That's why she wants the Sonics back. This one here from the 206. Katie can't read the room any better than Bruce. Exactly right. This one here from the other Mike and Everett. Hey, Ari, to answer the question you just posed, the media isn't putting out the information you just exposed about the stabbing suspect and the illegal truck drivers, not only because of their narrative, but also they don't want to admit that President Trump was right when he said a portion, not how big a portion, of the illegal aliens coming in were not the best people, criminals, and that kind of thing. Yeah, exactly right. This one here from Jeff and Kent. The Sonics are gone. They won't be back. If Seattle wanted them, they should have kept them when they had them. All right, this is the unpopular opinion, and I'm kind of with Jeff on this one. If you had all gone to the games when they were here, not just when they had a playoff run, you wouldn't have lost the team. Sorry, guys. I know it's an unpopular thing to say, but that's exactly it. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Leonard in Shoreline. Leonard, what's going on?
Hey, nothing much. I'm tired of beating a dead horse here, but the suspect out there in Bellevue that you mentioned last segment, when he made those 911 calls that were fake, did they realize that he called from a cell phone that didn't have any service?
Well, how could he call from a cell phone with no service? He called and got 911, Leonard. I don't think I understand your point.
That's what I mean. you can call 911 and still have a cell phone without service.
Well, we don't know that. We don't know that. What we do know is that the number traced back to him, lined up with his ID. So I'm tended to believe he actually may have had a service plan or somebody was paying for it for him, which is even crazier. That's not the thing I'm wondering about. I'm wondering why the media didn't want to cover he was homeless at all. I'm wondering why the media didn't want to cover he was from Sierra Leone. I'm wondering why they wanted to leave those two little details out. Leonard, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, Susie Wiles is being targeted by the media. Why? What do they have to gain by all this? We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. The latest scandal, or I should say faux scandal, created by the media about President Trump. Over the weekend, the Democrats released a whole bunch of pictures from the Epstein files. And what did they do? They put black marks over the faces of these young-looking girls standing next to President Trump and being like, we got him! We got him! These pictures have been out for ages. All you had to do is run them through Google's search for images. And what would you find? These are pictures with President Trump and the people who participated in his beauty pageants. But by covering up their faces, they were trying to make you think there's something scandalous here. So just like before when the Democrats released these documents and tried to make it sound like it was about President Trump, those documents have been out for a long, long time. We knew exactly who they were talking about. They didn't prove anything. And so these pictures didn't prove anything either. They were just trying to make you think there's a there there. So, of course, a social media trend starts after this, with people posting pictures with President Trump next to people in pictures that are well-known, that we've all seen, covering the face of the other person. My favorite was a still shot from Home Alone 2, where you have Kevin McAllister in the lobby of the Plaza Hotel asking Donald Trump for directions to the lobby, and somebody blacked out little Macaulay Culkin's face. That was my favorite one. Yeah, guys, you didn't get him this time. So they tried a new tactic. What was it? Vanity Fair decided to do a profile on Susie Wiles. Susie Wiles is, of course, the White House Chief of Staff, which is basically the co-president. She's behind the scenes a lot. She's got her stuff well together, well organized. I guess the only thing she can't stop is President Trump from going on Truth Social. But aside from that, this is a pretty well-run White House. Whether or not you agree with what they're doing, they are actively good at doing it. And Susie Wiles is one of the people credited with that. So they write this article where they take her quotes out of context and they're trying to demonize her because that's what Vanity Fair does. I mean, this is the same one that puts Jill Biden on their cover and not Melania Trump. I couldn't believe they agreed to this in the first place, but maybe they're trying to be more media friendly. Here's what the White House press secretary said after this hit piece came out. Everybody likes Susie Wiles. Whether or not you like the president, it seems like everybody likes Susie Wiles. This was a blatant hit piece, taking her quotes out of context to try and make it seem like she's saying bad stuff about President Trump. It's the same nonsense we've come to expect from the media. Here's J.D. Vance weighing on this faux controversy.
You know why I really love Susie Wiles? Because Susie is who she is in the president's presence. She's the same exact person when the president isn't around. I've never seen Susie Wiles say something to the president and then go and counteract him or subvert his will behind the scenes. And that's what you want in a staffer. Because as much as I love Susie, the American people didn't elect any staffer. They elected the President of the United States. And what you want in a staffer is a person who understands they are there to effectuate the will of the American people, and they're there to follow the orders of the duly elected Commander-in-Chief of the United States. And Susie Wiles, we have our disagreements. We agree on much more than we disagree, but I've never seen her be disloyal to the President of the United States, and that makes her the best White House Chief of Staff that I think the President could ask for.
So once again, this is the media trying to make one of their media narratives that is completely full of you-know-what. Something else yesterday was the Democrats were running with this unemployment number figure. Now, the U.S. economy added 64,000 jobs in the last month. The problem was it was offset by 105,000 job losses. Now, that sounds pretty bad, right? That sounds pretty awful. Now, the delayed reports show that while the U.S. economy picked up 64,000 jobs, it saw a decline of 105,000 in October. Why? Because Donald Trump fired a whole bunch of federal staff. Those are jobs that never should have existed in the first place. Those were the jobs that Joe Biden kept using to say, see, the job numbers are going up, they're going up, they're going up. Because what happened? Every single economic indicator under the Biden administration showed we were in a recession and very close to a depression, except for one, the jobs report. And the jobs report is the one they could monkey with the most. We know that they were messing with it. Why? They were altering the thing because every month they would say, look at these huge job numbers. And then they would do the revisions and it was half, a quarter, a percentage point of the number they actually claimed. A lot of those jobs never existed. But the ones that they did hire are federal workers that we didn't necessarily need. So you spent 4 years growing the federal government to accomplish what? Well, that's the kind of thing that increases inflation. That's the kind of thing that makes your dollar worth less. That's the thing that grows the debt. Hiring all these people you don't need for what? DEI positions? Who knows what? So basically what you're talking about is a whole bunch of jobs that never should have been created in the first place that are now gone under the Trump administration. So the only thing you heard out of the left was unemployment's up, unemployment's up, unemployment's up. Yeah, but do you know why else unemployment's up? When inflation gets so high that you have to raise interest rates like we had to do under Joe Biden, like the Fed had to do under Joe Biden, people can't expand their businesses anymore. People cut back on their employees, which guess what, my friends? When businesses can't expand, they can't hire and the unemployment rate goes up. They lay people off and the unemployment rate goes up. This is all stuff left over from Joe Biden that now the Trump administration is cleaning up. When we come back, my friends, was I wrong about King County Executive Gurmay Zahalai? Some interesting staffing moves, speaking of the unemployment numbers. We'll tell you what they are when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Was I wrong about leftist King County Executive Gurmay Zahalai? Now, I disagree with a lot of stuff. He's a defund the police type of guy. He believes in every kind of tax you can imagine. He's definitely bordering on the socialist thing. But he's been doing a lot of restaffing in King County. He's dissolving some offices, which is going to make the lefties go bonkers. The Climate Office, the Equity, Racial, and Social Justice Office, the Office of Economic Opportunity and Creative Economy, and the Office of Performance Strategy and Budget. Okay, so you had me on the first three until you get up to the Office of Performance Strategy and Budget. Now, mind you, I don't think you need all these offices. I think you can have teams inside the executive itself. I don't think you need all these different departments and everybody having a secretary and everybody having a janitor. I don't think you need all that. I'm wondering if this is like what Barack Obama did when he first became president. Do you remember? It was a big economic downturn in 2008 and people worried, where's the economy going? So Barack Obama decided to do a symbolic gesture. And what he did was he said he was freezing pay raises on White House staff. And a lot of people went, see, he actually doesn't want to blow out the spending. He actually wants to cut the spending. He wants to be fiscally irresponsible. Well, basically, he used the White House staff as pawns and froze their spending, their pay increases, but doubled down the spending, tripled down the spending, quadrupled down the spending, destroyed the spending in healthcare. So is this another performative thing? I'm kind of curious. Or is it just a restructuring? What do you think? You think it's a restructuring? Or you think he's actually having that moment, which a lot of lefty politicians have, where they make all these outrageous claims and then all of a sudden they realize they still have to govern. And if you don't want to raise taxes in your first year, you're going to need to make some cuts. And this is the easiest way to do it because you don't owe these people anything. They're not your officials. Now, mind you, if you're worried about the unemployment numbers, I wonder how much of this may have contributed to it. Where now you've got him laying off all these people. I don't know why you need a climate office. Even if King County decided it was going to go full bore on all this, it's not going to solve climate change by itself. So you need all these mayors that have their own climate offices, an office of equity and racial and social justice. Give me a break, okay? You have HR people, right? That's basically that office already. You don't need two of them. Office of Economic Opportunity. Open a business, there might be some economic opportunity. Not in King County, not in Washington, not in Seattle. But if you open a business, there might be some economic opportunity. Why you actually need a business to incentivize, an office to incentivize any of that? That makes no sense. So what do you think? Do you think Gurmay is turning over a new leaf? Or do you think this is just purely for appearances? Give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Now, apparently about 70 to 90 people are not being asked to come back, so this may be real. But is this the kind of thing you do at the beginning and then slowly hire people back or shift them to other departments or shift them to other offices? Which one do you think? Meanwhile, there's this crazy story here out of Washington. A 55-year-old Everett, Washington man who admitted to building and possessing a pipe bomb that exploded and destroyed a neighbor's car has been sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. A punishment a judge said reflects a serious and quite frankly horrifying conduct, compounded by racist statements he made in the attack. Apparently he didn't like his neighbors because they were black, so he decided to try and blow up their car. Stephen Goldstein was sentenced in U.S. District Court in Seattle after pleading guilty to 3 federal felonies: unlawful possession of a destructive device, unlawful possession of ammunition, unlawful possession of a firearm, because apparently this guy had a very, very long record and was still able to have a gun and was still able to have ammo. I'm kind of wondering where were all of Bob Ferguson's gun control laws to stop this guy from having them? At the sentencing hearing, U.S. District Judge John C. Chun condemned both the violence and its motivation, signed defendant's racist remarks connected to the incident. Federal officials described the car bombing as a hate-fueled intimidation that could have turned deadly. The guy built a pipe bomb and basically shoved it in somebody's tailpipe. According to court records, the explosion happened on December 31st, 2024, when Everett police respond to reports that a car parked in an apartment complex had been blown up. The victims told investigators they suspected it was this guy because of ongoing conflict. The next day, they received a voicemail message from him that included racial slurs and references to the explosion. Doesn't sound like he's quite right in the head. As I say all the time, a normal person does not go and shoot up anything. A normal person does not go and light up bombs in people's cars. Investigators used video surveillance from the victim's apartment and nearby businesses to identify the suspect. Guys, don't commit a crime where you live. If you're a neighbor of the guy, guess what? The security camera footage is going to catch where you're coming and going from. They found he was in possession of stolen property of more than 700 rounds of ammunition, and he also had firearms. Well, awesome. Gun laws definitely worked in this case, right? And we have people like Bob Ferguson who want to get rid of more of your firearm rights because of guys like this. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, more massive flooding around here, more rain on the way. Not looking good for Western Washington right now, especially towns like Leavenworth. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 4:30, Assistant Attorney General for the U.S. Justice Department, Harmeet Dhillon, will be joining us to talk about the lawsuit against Washington State regarding our voter rolls and why Steve Hobbs won't turn them over. We'll have that at 4:30. You don't want to miss it. But before we get to any of that, a lot of you have a lot of opinions on Gurmeet Zahalai and whether this is all for real or whether this is a show that he's cutting all these employees in the King County Executive's office. This one from John in Lakewood. It's all fake. Those offices will be back next year with different names. This one from Jeff in Kent. Zahalai is restructuring. I'm betting this will increase spending and require more from us in taxes in the long run. This one from Bob in the 509. Ari, sure, with multiple U's. The new King County Executive is eliminating all the silly, wasteful staffing focused on so-called climate change, social justice, and DEI under various other monikers. Great, right? Just wait until next month when he announces restructuring goal and rehiring effort to staff the new and amazing King County Politburo and Central Committee, modeled after the highly efficient governing system of you-know-where. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this is actually, I think I have a different take on this. I think what he's going to do is do this in stages. The first stage is going to be, I made all these cuts. Now you got to pay all these taxes. I think that's stage one. I made all my cuts, guys. Look, I've been being responsible. I inherited a mess. I inherited all these problems. Yeah, you were on the King County Council, dude. You voted for half these problems. I inherited all this, and I made all these cuts. So now you got to work with me here, and we all got to bite the bullet together, and we all got to, pinch our whatevers, and yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. Then, after he gets the tax increases he wants, then you're going to see the newly renamed offices come back. I think this is all part of the big plan. What wasn't part of the plan is the massive flooding that's going on right now. The rains continue here in Washington, and Washington Governor Bob Ferguson has announced a 49-mile stretch of Highway 2 between Skycomish and Leavenworth will be closed for several months due to significant damage after historic weather and flooding. During a Tuesday briefing, Ferguson highlighted the severity of the situation, noting that landslides continue to affect the area. Quote, it's premature to guess exactly how to estimate exactly how long that will be, but that is obviously a major highway. We understand the patience of businesses and individuals, human lives, about not having that highway available for an extended period of time. We're going to do everything we possibly can to repair it as quickly as possible, but it is literally underwater in stages, and there are major issues on that roadway. Stop. Pause. Yesterday, we spoke with our friend Todd Myers from the Washington Policy Center. Todd Myers told us that you guys said you were going to spend a significant amount of money addressing the effects of flooding from climate change using the money you stole from us. You taxed us from the Climate Commitment Act. My question is, how many of these highways, how many of these bridges, how many of these streets were already cited as flood risks? And rather than deal with any of them, you let the problem sit and sit and sit and sit. How many of them? Because this is something that's been going on for a long, long time. Neglected infrastructure. Now, we can't entirely blame Bob Ferguson for any of that, because he was the Attorney General at the time, not exactly in his wheelhouse. But we can blame Jay Inslee. We can blame the Washington State Legislature. They always talk about infrastructure projects, and they always talk about combating climate change and the effects of climate change or natural disasters like we've never seen before. So, how many of the places that are now having massive flooding problems could have been addressed if they had actually used that money for what they said it was going to go to? If somebody wants to do some digging into that and find out, be my guest. I'll do some research myself over the holiday break and find out exactly which of these projects have been stated for a while. This is massive flooding. These are massive problems. These are things that should have been fixed. These are roads that should have been fixed. And the amount of money that was spent on things like air conditioning units at local high schools, or that went to nonprofits or went to other government agencies, over 90% of that funding. So come on, guys, let's be real about this. You want to say it's historic flooding? Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you. Why weren't we more prepared for it? I noticed that in Mount Vernon, Washington, we had some people send us pictures of this seawall, flood wall, barrier wall they put up to protect downtown. Meanwhile, in King County, they can't even keep these little levees. Well, they use seepage blankets after the levees broke. These aren't levees. These are little mud things underneath roads. How many of these are cited for risk? Well, we know the one out in Tequila was cited back in 2021 as having problems. Nobody dealt with that. Wasn't Jay Inslee's big things the disastrous effects of climate change? We all know what's going to happen, right? This legislative session is going to roll around, and Bob Ferguson is going to talk about the historic flooding. We need more money. This wasn't in the budget. We have this historic flooding, so we need to tax you to pay for it. Oh, we were going to get our budget under control with cuts and stuff, but now nobody anticipated these effects of climate change. We've been warning for years, but the Republicans said climate change was a joke. And now look what happened because of our short-sightedness. Washingtonians, pay up. And you know what your response is? Why did we give you all that money for the Climate Commitment Act? For the last year and a half, you did nothing with it. You paid for trains. How does that fix the climate? You gave the money to non-government organizations. You gave money to people like Reuben Carlyle so you could buy a new suit. You gave the money to all these other organizations. Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you address it when you had the opportunity to address it? Oh, really? I'm very, very curious about that. Really, very curious about that. So that's what's going to happen. And meanwhile, there are real people with real lives who are being affected of all this. The town of Leavenworth. For those of you who don't live in Washington, Leavenworth is a destination tourist attraction. It is a town, a small town in the middle of nowhere that was dying. And years ago, they said, let's make this place into a Bavarian village because the mountains around here look like they're out of the Sound of Music. So if you go to Leavenworth, the whole town looks like a Bavarian town. In fact, their zoning regulations say that it has to look Bavarian. So the 76 station, the gas sign looks Bavarian. The Safeway looks Bavarian. Everything looks Bavarian. I love Leavenworth. So if you're a Bavarian village, what are your two most high traffic parts of the year if you're a tourist destination? Well, Bavarian, German, European. Hey, how about Oktoberfest? That's one. And then the other one is winter. They have sleigh rides. They have reindeer. They do all the things. And last weekend, they had to cancel everything. If your tourist attraction's main tourist time is in December, and now people can't get to you, you're going to have major, major problems. And this is coming off of what happened when you had COVID and all the tourist attractions were shut down. How many businesses didn't survive during all this? It's thing after thing after thing. What, you think Bob Ferguson's going to look out for them? When they get this money they tax all of us for, you think it's going to go to infrastructure? No. It'll go to self-service stations like Rain City Jets or whatever it was called, that crazy place where men do their thing in an art gallery, so they call it, or laser hair removal for trans inmates, or health insurance for illegal aliens. That's what the money's actually going to go towards. It's not going to go to any of this stuff. It's not going to go to infrastructure. Here's something else on Highway 2, Mount Stevens, ski resort. So they don't have enough problems. Now people aren't going to be able to get to the ski resort. Now, there are detours to these places, but if it adds hours to your trip instead of 10 or 20 minutes, people are going to say, where else can we go? We'll go to Snoqualmie. We'll go to Crystal. We'll go anywhere else. We'll go to any of these other places. We're not going to go to Mount Stevens because didn't you hear the road is washed out? Didn't you hear it's underwater? And later from now, when you find out that these places have been repaired, how many people are going to know they've even been repaired? We still have people who think the autonomous zone is still in downtown Seattle. This kind of stuff doesn't go away. It's a bad reputation thing. You have to have big events. So actually, I'll propose an idea for a big event. Mike, tell me if you think this will work, because I'm just trying to help our friends in Leavenworth, because I love Leavenworth. I usually go to Leavenworth during the summer, Mike. And what did I say just a couple days ago my favorite store in Leavenworth is? The store where year-round it's Christmas. Where year-round it is Christmas. I think that everybody who would have normally gone to Leavenworth during the winter, I think we should find an occasion during the summer for everybody to go to Leavenworth and have Christmas in July. I really think there should be a month of Christmas in July. I think you should do July 4th with the fireworks. I think you should make a whole big deal out of it because Leavenworth is beautiful, and help these guys make up the holiday season. What do you guys think of my plan? I think it's a pretty good one. Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. More storms are on the way, and now FEMA is sending in search and rescue, canine disaster search teams because of the flooding. We do have our first casualty, and actually I saw this because of Mike. Mike shared this one and posted it. Guys, I don't know if they teach you this here in driver's ed. Mike, you tell me if they did when you went to driver's ed here. In New York, they always taught you, if there is a puddle, don't get excited and go splash it, even though it's fun to look like Moses in the Red Sea. Why? Because you don't know what's under that puddle. You may be going into a pothole. You may be going into something that's really deep, and you may submerge your car. So when you see the signs that say road closed ahead, don't brave it and go going, I got this. I got four-wheel drive. Mike, during snowstorms, you know which vehicles I always see in the ditches? The SUVs. Because people go, I got this. I can handle this. I can take this on. How's your neighborhood doing, Mike? You were a little nervous yesterday. How's it looking now?
Oh, it's fine.
Okay. Just fine. That's it. Okay.
Well, I mean, my backyard's pretty flooded, but I have marked myself safe on Facebook. I'm having friends from all over the country like calling me and texting me, Mark, I see the stuff that you're posting. Are you okay? I'm like, I don't live in Tukwila.
Right,
I live
right.
near Tukwila.
Yeah.
But like the whole tone of the stuff that I've been posting, like my mom is like, well, keep us posted. And I'm like, yeah, I still live in SeaTac above Tukwila, but I will tell you when I see the Green River flooding, a little too close for my taste. And that's all that was. It's like, and I'm saying things like, well, make sure you got a go bag and make sure you got stuff ready for your pets or whatever. I got a friend of mine who lives in Springfield, Missouri. He's like, so do you got your go bag ready? And I'm like, well, actually I do, but yeah, no, it's just interesting looking at things through the lens of social media, what people choose to interpret versus what they actually read.
Sure. Exactly. My grandma used to be like this. So she would see that it was snowing in eastern Washington. Are you okay? I love my grandma. God rest her soul. God bless her. But she would always call Mike my favorite one, and this is kind of tragic just because now that I'm in the news business, I know a little bit more about it. When the helicopter crashed, I didn't work for the news outlet then. When the one crashed at Como News, she called me to make sure I was okay. And I go, Grandma, thank you, but I don't fly helicopters. At the time I was in real estate. I don't fly helicopters. I don't live at a news station. And I don't work near the Space Needle. But I appreciate your concern. That was my grandma, always calling to make sure I'm okay. So there's a little piece of me right now that's like she would be calling every 5 minutes to make sure I was okay. Do you remember, this was a few years ago, it rained for 30 consecutive days in Washington. It was big national news. And I go, why is that big national news? Then 30 became like 60, became like 90. And it wasn't a big deal, but she would call me, are you okay? Is everything all right? Shameless plug, by the way. My gutters are not okay because I have a stupid Seattle rain cistern on them. If there's some roofer out there who wants to be a sponsor of the Ari Hoffman Show, I am happy to talk to you, my friends. You give us a call, and do I have a project for you? Email us, ari@kvi.com. That's ari@kvi.com, because those cisterns are not holding up. You know what happens when you get a free cistern system from the city of Seattle?
You get what you pay for?
Exactly right. Holy cow, what a train wreck disaster. ari@kvi.com. That's ari@kvi.com.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm grateful that there are so many people in my life that are invested in my well-being and have concern for me. But seriously, I'm fine.
Yes.
I don't live near the mall. I don't live near the Home Depot.
Is the Home Depot in trouble?
Well, the waters are getting real close.
Oh, that's where it is.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
where it's going. Okay.
Yeah. Right up on the sidewalk. there.
Hopefully, I'll have a chance to go down tonight. I actually got some shopping to do.
Yeah, go across the bridge.
Yeah.
It'll be fun times. And then you'd
Check
be
it
like,
out.
that water's getting a little high.
I loved when you said that yesterday. Still one of my favorite Mike bits. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Jeff in Polsbo. Jeff, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm peachy. How are you?
Great. Question. Are you familiar with the World Court?
The World Court? Which World Court we talking about? We talking about the one at The Hague?
The one in The Hague?
The one in
Yes,
The Hague.
that's the
I'm
one.
familiar with the World Court at The Hague. Where are we going with this, Jeff? I assume you want to follow up on our conversation from yesterday.
Well, I didn't really have all the stats yesterday, so I thought I'd just go to a simpler question. Do you think you know more than those people that sit on those courts?
Do you like George Clooney?
No, I don't like George Clooney.
Okay, would you like to know who brought the charges against Israel for the World Court?
Okay.
George Clooney's wife, Amal
All right.
Clooney.
Well,
Okay.
I thought he was gay.
Huh? Well, apparently not. He's got a wife named Amal Clooney. Amal Clooney was very, very mad that people were disproving all her information, and one of those people who was disproving her information was a guy named Joe Biden. And when Joe Biden was disproving George Clooney's wife, George Clooney got really, really mad about it. And who was the first celebrity who said this guy shouldn't be running for office? Do you remember?
No idea.
There was an op-ed in the New York Times by a movie star who said he saw Joe Biden and he didn't look good. And now, after all this time of hanging out with Joe Biden, it was really time for him to step aside and Kamala Harris to be up. Do you know who that celebrity was, Joe? Jeff, excuse me?
No, I don't.
It was George Clooney. It was George Clooney. So
good
do
for
you
George.
think that maybe he was a little biased because Amal Clooney's lawsuit against people were falling apart? Also, I'll ask you this. How come Amal Clooney didn't go after the heads of Hamas like she went after Israel?
You know, my question isn't about the Clooney family. My question
Oh, I
is
got you,
about
but you were asking
your
about the World Court.
competency of the court.
You're asking about the World Court, so
belief-
I'm asking
Just
you.
whether you think these
I'm
people
asking you about
have
the
more
World Court.
information than you.
Jeff, can you do me a favor? Can you do me a
haven't answered
favor?
my question.
Pull
My
out some
very
of those.
first
I'm
question.
trying to answer your question, Jeff. Can you pull out some of those statistics from the World Court for me and tell me what you found from the World Court? Because who's the World Court run by? Who's it run by? Who's it run by,
Leaders from
Jeff?
around the world.
Who is it run by? It is not run by the whole world. Who runs the
I
World
guess
Court,
it's the
Jeff?
Clooney's. Is it the Clooney's?
No, it is not the Clooney's. It's the UN. And the UN actually released all their numbers recently, which disprove everything at The Hague, Jeff. So if you think you called me with a gotcha, you got to come better prepared than that. You didn't even know the name of the lawyer who was doing the case at The Hague, but you called up thinking you got me this time.
Well, World Court convicted Netanyahu of war crimes.
No, they did
You
not
apparently don't
convict
watch the-
Netanyahu
you
for
don't
war
watch the,
crimes. That is not what. Jeff, you're lying again. No, they didn't. What they did was they said,
Well, what
we
did
want
they
him here
convict
to
him of?
answer for world crimes and put him on trial for war
Yeah.
crimes. They did not convict
Okay.
anything of anything. Nice try again,
so they
Jeff.
want him to
We
answer?
tried this, but you just failed again.
Boring conversation anyway.
I mean, you can keep calling with this kind of stuff, but I mean, keep trying, Jeff. Keep trying. By the way, to all my friends out there, Jeff is on the right, not the left. Jeff is calling to discuss this stuff because he's one of the people on the far right, not the far left. People on the left like George Clooney. People on the left like Amal Clooney. This guy doesn't like Joe Biden. This guy doesn't like George Clooney. What side is he on? That's right. He thinks he's on our side. When you talk about the rising anti-Semitism and the rising anti-Israel tide, that's what it is. And Jeff, if you want to listen more and try and get me again, we'll be discussing terrorism and Hamas and all those guys at around 5 o'clock today. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, my friends, a new wrinkle in what happened with the Let's Go Washington rally to get signatures this weekend in Tumwater. We'll tell you what happened when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, everybody, you should download that KVI app right now. And the reason you should do that is because we're having an exclusive ticket giveaway on the app to go see Toto with Christopher Cross and the Romantics August 18th at the White River Amphitheater. Now, you can only enter on the app. Do not text us. Do not call us. Download the app to your phone, and then you can enter to win a free pair of tickets. And you can download the app in the Apple or Android app stores. Get your tickets for Toto at the White River Amphitheater on August 18th with Christopher Cross and the Romantics. Download the KVI app today. By the way, the left is really, or the right, whoever it is, has really got to serve up some more educated people to fight with me on the phone. I kind of miss Bennett. At least Bennett had the sources with him. We may disagree on him, but at least Bennett had the goods. Maybe he's listening right now. He'll give me a call to argue with me on something. Anyway, switching gears entirely, there's an aspect of a story I missed with regards to Antifa threatening the Let's Go Washington signing event over the weekend in Tumwater. So yesterday, Brandy Cruz posted to social media a clip of her show where she was talking about some behind-the-scenes shenanigans with the Tumwater police. Before I get to what Brandy said, I'm going to give you the part I played in this story, because this is a really tangled web and shows you what we are up against here in Washington. On Thursday, Let's Go Washington said to me, Ari, we got some security concerns. The FBI called the Tumwater police and said Antifa is going after the event. They're talking about it online. What do you think we should do? Why did Let's Go Washington call me? I will tell you why. Mike, I've been in and out of this booth the last 2 days consistently because there's a big event coming up in the Jewish community, and a lot of people ask me for security advice because I have a lot to do with security companies, and unfortunately, I've learned a lot because I've had to for death threats and many other reasons. Okay. So, deal with security, people call me. Let's Go Washington, when they first started getting threats, I hooked them up with my security company who are pros, best of the best. And so they call me from time to time on security issues. They call me and they said, what do you think we should do? And I said, you make sure the event is safe, you double your security, make sure you're coordinating with local law enforcement, and then send out a press release. And why do I think you should send out a press release? Because then you're warning the other side, you know what they're up to, you're prepared for it. But also, once that happens, the people on your side will see the bat signal and know they have to come support you because of all this. Now, what I didn't know was that Let's Go Washington was putting together this press release, and I got it Friday morning, and I posted it on social media. But then Fridays around here are a crazy day for me. What happens on Friday? I got to get my show recorded as soon as possible so I can get home before the Sabbath. So basically, my cutoff time for the news is my cutoff time for the news, and that's it. And then I check in Saturday night and see what's going on. We always have fresh content on Fridays this time of year, but it's usually pre-recorded. So what happens? I had already done the show. I'm seeing all the stuff while I'm recording the show about, are the threats real? Are the threats not real? What's going on? What I didn't know was that Brandy Cruz had also been contacted, and of course it makes perfect sense. She's headlining the event. They want to make sure there's no security concerns, and according to Brandy, over on her podcast yesterday, what happened was they contacted her, and she was a little wary of sending out the press release. Of course, you've got teenage kids coming. You've got your own personal safety to think about. I completely agree. You should be wary of it, 1,000%. And Brandy said, check with the Tumwater police before you send out the press release. So Let's Go Washington says that they checked with the Tumwater police, and the Tumwater police said, sure, send it out. No problem. So then they sent the thing out. Okay. Then there's a press release from the Tumwater Police Department that goes out on social media, basically saying there's no threat, we're not that concerned, and there's a controversial, they use the word controversial event happening. First of all, show me your bias without showing me your bias. Second of all, I know that you guys got the FBI talking to you. I know you got the chatter from the FBI. The police in Tumwater know you got it. So who all of a sudden is telling the Tumwater police to send out a press release saying there's no specific threat? By the way, I couldn't figure out what was going on. Mike, I came back online Saturday night, and I was posting material about it, seeing what was going on, and I see all these lefties saying, there's no threat, there's no threat, there's no threat, there's no threat. I'm thinking, what the hell happened while I was offline? turns out what happened here is likely somebody in Tumwater, which is definitely on the left, or somebody in the Tumwater Police Department or somebody in the Tumwater School District put some pressure on the police department, if they even needed the pressure, to say, don't say there's a threat. So tons of law enforcement show up to this thing because they know there's a threat. You know how I can disprove this right now? If there wasn't a threat, why did all the Tumwater police show up? Why did all these different agencies show up? Why did all these three-letter agencies show up? Why did all these police cars show up, which there is video of? If there wasn't a threat, if the whole thing was made up, they could say, we're not coming. We're not showing up. So who's lying? And my guess is somebody in Tumwater got pressure from radical activists or is a radical activist and said, you got to get rid of this narrative right now because there's no violence. There's no political violence from the far left. Spare me. I saw the online chatter. It got sent to me. They were literally doxing every single security guard who is at every Let's Go Washington event so you know who to look for. There were people at that event who were taking pictures of everybody who was there in order to dox them. There are people who take pictures of license plates of cars in order to get their information of who's at these events to try and intimidate them. This is an organized effort by the left to shut down these two initiatives. And I told you yesterday, they sent out an email bragging about it. The Washington Education Association, the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, SEIU, one of the worst unions ever. They're all working together to try and shut down, subvert democracy, to stop you from gathering those signatures. My friends, I'm going to give you another pitch for this. Let's Go Washington needs your signatures back right now. Right now. Even if you have one signature on a piece of paper, you need to get it back right now. I get emails all the time for drop locations. Guys, go on Let's Go Washington's website. You can get an envelope. You can mail it back, but I recommend you go to a drop location and bring those things in now because they are so close to the finish line. And here's what you don't want to happen. You don't want to happen, the left to crow that they stopped this whole thing. In fact, those of you who go, I don't want my name on these things, guys, now's the time you got to step up. Now is when you have to step up. Go to Let's Go Washington's website. Find out where you can sign these things or how to return the signature pages you have right now. And don't wait till January 2nd going, I can get a few more, I can get a few more. Don't do an Oscar Schindler, okay? Don't do that. What you need to do is you need to get that sheet in right now. Go to Let's Go Washington's website, find out where you can drop it off and how you can mail it in. They need those signatures today. When we come back, talking about subverting democracy, looks like Secretary of State Steve Hobbs doesn't want to give out our voter rolls so that the feds can find out if they're accurate or not. Harmeet Dhillon will be joining us when we come back to weigh in on the DOJ's lawsuit. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. The U.S. Department of Justice is suing Washington and 5 other states for not providing voter registration data. Washington Secretary of State Steve Hobbs refused to release the state's voter data without, quote unquote, the Department of Justice explanation of its intended use. Joining us now to discuss on the Warrior Injury Law studio line is the Assistant Attorney General for the Civil Rights Division of the U.S. Department of Justice, Harmeet Dhillon. Thank you so much for being back with us today.
Thanks for having me, Ari.
Such a pleasure. Now, Secretary of State Steve Hobbs says he's not sure what you guys are going to do with the data. This kind of cracks me up, given the fact that the IRS works for you, the FBI works for you. You guys have a lot of data. It's comparing and making sure that all the people that should be on our voter rolls should be on our voter rolls. Isn't that right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the Attorney General under the Civil Rights Act of 1960 has the absolute right to this data. The Secretary of State is mistaken. He does not get to second guess the federal government fulfilling federal law by helping clean the voter rolls, by examining data, by ensuring that non-citizens and dead people and so forth are not on the rolls and left open as exploits for diluting the votes of American citizens in federal elections.
Now, we know that every single time, it seems, there is some illegal alien who's a criminal, who's arrested for some horrific crime. We find out they're registered to vote in Washington state. There's a lot of reasons why. There's motor voter laws. Washington state, people who live here, residents, I'll call them. I won't call them citizens, because any database you get on is somehow fed into that system. And basically, we're on the honor system here, where you just check a box and say, yes, I'm a U.S. citizen, and there's no verification process of that whatsoever. I assume that's one of many things that concerns you about Washington's voter rolls.
That's correct. And it's not just Washington, and it's not just blue states. It's kind of a national problem. And we are here to help. I know that's kind of the joke is Ronald Reagan said that 7 scariest words are from the federal government, and I'm here to help. But the states could be doing this themselves, and they're not. That's why we're here. It is overdue. Weirdly enough, that even the federal government has never done this enforcement effort before. But every citizen has a right to know that in a federal election, their vote is being counted only once and only with other American citizens. And so we're failing on that. We found thousands of people on the voter rolls and almost 50 million records we've reviewed so far, and hundreds of thousands of dead people. So people who are here illegally or legally but are not entitled to vote, and people who are dead. None of those people belong on the voter rolls, and that's a pretty high error rate.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling to me how bad that is, especially we know that people get double ballots here. They get triple ballots here. We know that there are people who get ballots for spouses that are not citizens. We know that people get ballots for kids who have moved out of town, are no longer even residents. I mean, my son is right now serving in the Israeli Defense Forces, and he still gets his ballot even though he said he moved to Israel. That still shows up at my house all the time. I know this firsthand. So the question is, don't you think that if they're trying to say there's no voter fraud or no other problems, that we have the most secure election in our state, shouldn't they just say, here, we'll turn it over and we'll prove it to you? Wouldn't that make the most amount of sense?
Well, and 6 states have done exactly that. They've handed over their data. They understand that, first of all, we're here to help them do their jobs, and they want to show their homework that they are doing their jobs. And I'm grateful for that, because it means I don't have to sue them, because I am going to sue everybody else who doesn't give me their data. And this job is going to get done under this administration. People are like, oh, what's going to happen after you? I mean, who knows? But while we're here, we're going to do our job.
It seems to me that one of the biggest loopholes that we have here in Washington is the inactive voter list. They are theoretically removed from the voter rolls, and it'll probably be done to conceal it from you guys if they ever turn these things over. And yet many somehow mysteriously vote even though nobody is there, or they don't exist, or they moved years ago. And we have activists who have gone out and doorbelled those homes. This is just one of many, many problems. Are there any other clever loopholes you guys have been finding during these investigations?
I don't think it's loopholes so much as just sloppiness. I mean, one of the political realities here, which I know, having been in politics before, is hardly anybody really wants to be the Secretary of State. They kind of do it to park their campaign finance cash until they can run for governor or, some other race. And so there's just a lack of attention to detail in doing their jobs, and it's kind of unglamorous, and the data's unwieldy, and some liberal group, the ACLU, League of Women Voters, is going to sue you if you take people off the voter rolls. That's happened. So I get it. The path of least resistance is to just have bloated, sloppy voter rolls. Except now, where now they're caught between the ACLU, League of Women Voters, who want sloppy voter rolls, and the United States Department of Justice that wants clean ones. And so people are going to have to pick sides here. Washington has picked a side, but we'll ultimately have a court rule on it.
We're talking with the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights at the U.S. Department of Justice, Harmeet Dhillon. So what are the next steps? Where do we go from here? Lawsuits going forward. What's the next step in the process?
Next step in the process is probably a bunch of those aforementioned liberal groups moving to intervene in this lawsuit like they have in other cases. Probably a motion to dismiss by the state. We oppose the motion to dismiss. There's a scheduling order at some point. And, weeks or months down the road, we have a hearing involving a judge determining who gets these documents, and then there's inevitably going to be an appeal of whatever. So,
gotcha.
Same cookie cutter in 18 different states, and we have a few more that we're pursuing. I'm suing Georgia, announced that publicly. They're refusing to give us their information, and ultimately every state's going to give us their data, or we're going to sue them.
Yeah, it should be pretty easy to turn this stuff over, especially in light of recent watchdog reports we have here in Washington from our friends over at We the Govern that showed that a third of voter ID information is missing from fields in Washington of the voter rolls they've been able to investigate. Just before we let you go, has there been any coordination with organizations like Department of Homeland Security or ICE, with all the illegal alien criminals they found, because possibly releasing a list of everybody who was on the voter rolls, who was also one of these illegal alien criminals or truck drivers who got a CDL, could be very powerful?
No, we're not going to be releasing lists of people for vigilantes to go after. That's probably not a great idea from a law enforcement perspective. We are certainly comparing data we're getting with other federal government agencies.
Gotcha.
And we are also letting states know what we're finding so that they can take people off the voter rolls. This is a two-way process. They give us data, we help them. We show them what we did with it and what we found so that they can help clean up the voter rolls. That's really the whole point of this exercise.
Harmeet Dhillon, Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights at the U.S. Department of Justice, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much for fighting so hard to make sure that our voting is secure here in Washington.
Thanks for having me, Ari. I appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. A lot of you reached out after that interview on KVI, and you said, hey, how can we show Harmeet Dhillon what we got going on here in Washington? We've been working with Glenn Morgan. We've been working with other people. If you have stuff you want me to pass along, email me, arikvi.com. That's arikvi.com. We will try to make sure all of this gets into the right hands so that way the feds know exactly what they're up against here in Washington. So once again, you can email me, arikvi.com. That's arikvi.com. Also, a reminder, download the KVI app because we have an exclusive ticket giveaway. We're giving away tickets to Toto with Christopher Cross and the Romantics, August 18th at the White River Amphitheater. You can only enter this contest on the KVI app, so download the KVI app right now, either in the Apple or the Android App Store, for your chance to win tickets to see Toto with Christopher Cross and the Romantics, August 18th at the White River Amphitheater. Now, I saw this story today, and I kind of had to chuckle a little bit. Just 4 years after it was launched, the Ford Motor Company has pulled the plug on its electric F-150 Lightning truck. Why am I laughing about this? Mike, you might remember this. Joe Biden was put behind the wheel of one of these suckers at the age of, 107? And said, here, go drive this nice electric car because Ford is going to be making these electric vehicles. Literally, even the car Joe Biden drove is no longer being made. The company will instead reportedly be focusing on hybrid vehicles. Oh, what have I been saying the whole time? And a future lineup of smaller, more affordable electric trucks. In a call with reporters on Monday, Andrew Frick, the president of Ford Blue and Ford Model E, the company's commercial and electric divisions, said the American consumer is speaking clearly and they want the benefits of electrification like instant torque and mobile power, but they also demand affordability. Rather than spending billions more on large EVs that now have no path to profitability, we're allocating that money into higher returning areas. Stop. Can we analyze this for a second? No return to profitability. No results in profitability. No way to profitability. People want the big power of the electric cars. People do want it. There's this common misconception on the right, nobody wants the electric cars. That ain't true. I was converted over to the electric car school of thinking when our friends over at Renton Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram lent me electric cars, and I went, these things are fast. These things are speedy. These things are powerful. These things are awesome. Unfortunately, they cost a lot of money. So the government was subsidizing it, thinking, well, then people will just buy them. But what happened was a lot of car makers like Ford jacked up the prices to compensate for the money they're getting from the government because they were losing money on these vehicles anyway. You know, I'm very heartened to see my friends over at Renton Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram are still selling the vehicles at affordable prices. You should go check them out. They have some amazing Black Friday deals. But this thing from Ford, people didn't want that kind of truck. People wanted the speedy cars. I actually think if there's a future in these things, it's the sports cars. I know a lot of guys like me want the roar of the engine, et cetera, but when they realize how fast these suckers are, they'll go, I want one of those. Those are awesome. They're a lot of fun to drive. I was racing my son in one of these EVs. No, I wasn't. I wasn't doing that on major roadways. And I blew him away, and he was driving my Batmobile. So here's the thing, guys. The free market is doing what the free market does. So here's something else. The government was not only incentivizing these, but basically saying you better do this or else. And they were losing money on these big electric cars they were selling. When the truck was announced in 2021, the company said it would cost just $40,000. However, once trucks began to roll off the production line, the company was unable to hit this target. For 2025 model of the Ford Lightning, the price started around $55,000. Ford also reportedly lost money on every vehicle despite the higher price point, with electric vehicle sales being lower in recent years than expected and production costs not coming down. It turns out when you have skyrocketing inflation, people go, I don't need that new toy right now. I can wait on the new truck. I can wait on the new car. And that's exactly what happened. The truck was marketed toward those who love trucks, with outlets being located across the vehicle to run power tools, appliances, even a house. And while the truck won multiple awards, including 2023 Truck of the Year for Motor Trend and Kelley Blue Book's top pick in 2024 for electric trucks, shoppers were unhappy with reliability and limited towing range. Frick said that changes in the regulatory environment were part of the entire landscape that resulted in the company ending the vehicle and moving toward an extended range version in its place. You know what we can now sell in the U.S.? The mini trucks. The kinds of things you see in Europe, the kinds of things you see in James Bond and Mission Impossible movies, they can now start selling those things here, which were not allowed to be sold. You wonder why there's certain models made in other countries. By the way, if you want to entertain yourself, pick your favorite American car company. Pick the country your family came from. Go to their website of that country, of that car manufacturer, and see what models are available for sale. It's pretty entertaining to see. I was looking up which of these models are available for sale in Israel. Chevy, you get pretty much what you want there. But you look at a lot of other car makers, you're like, I've never even seen that sucker before. What is that car? I didn't even know that thing existed. So yeah, you get some fascinating things because in other parts of the world, they can't park these big American trucks. They can't get these big American things down the streets. So they make them smaller. At the end of the Lightning electric truck, the company will pivot its Kentucky battery production site to build batteries for storage instead of trucks. These batteries could be used for the electric as well as data centers and other industrial consumers because they're not just going to shut down their battery centers. They're not just going to do that. But this is the free market working it out. People still love the electric cars. They do. They just want them more affordable. The market is speaking very loudly, very clearly. Don't forget to check out the year-end deals over at my friends at Renton Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. They got some beautiful, beautiful hybrid, electric, and gas-powered cars over there. When we come back, my friends, just got an email from the Department of Homeland Security about an illegal alien here in Washington. We'll tell you all about it, plus some tragic incidents happening around the globe. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVL. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour with a shooter still on the loose in New England. Authorities said he wasn't a threat to the community. Well, he may still be a pretty serious threat to the community. We'll tell you what's going on, but first, literally during the commercial break, I got an email from ICE with some new details about the illegal alien trucker who we know killed a young father here in Washington on SR 167 last week. I'm going to read directly from the press release itself. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security and the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement announced Washington sanctuary politicians refused to honor a detainer for Kamalpreet Singh, a criminal illegal alien truck driver from India who caused a fatal multi-vehicle crash. Instead of honoring the ICE arrest detainer, these politicians chose to release this public safety threat back onto America's roads. On December 11th, Singh failed to decelerate, striking the rear of another vehicle, pushing it into a third vehicle. The vehicle Singh directly hit caught on fire, and the driver, Robert Pearson, died at the scene. By the way, that's a really scaled-down version of what happened. The truck never tried to stop, and traffic was stopped on a freeway. Plowed into the car. The truck went up on the car, pancaked it, and shoved it under the truck in front of it, and then it blew up. Singh illegally entered the U.S. in 2023 near Lukeville, Arizona, and was released into this country by the Biden administration. Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin, who I really need to have back on the show. We haven't had her in a while. These demented and dangerous sanctuary policies have deadly consequences. Robert Pearson would still be alive today if the Biden administration hadn't released this illegal alien in our country. How many more Americans have to be killed before Democrat politicians start to put the public's safety ahead of politics? Now, I saw the GoFundMe for Robert Pearson, who is also named Blake. I saw it on social media. Young guy in his 20s, 2 young, beautiful kids, beautiful wife, was getting ready to set up the house for Christmas. That's the latest picture I saw, or maybe it was Christmas from last year. That dad isn't coming home for Christmas. He was just on his way to work when this truck driver killed him. And here's something else. We know, and we had this material over the weekend, that the driver of the truck was also messing with his log to make it look like he had a co-driver so he could drive more hours. There are these electronic logs for truck drivers, and he was violating those rules as well. Where is he now after he was bonded out? If I was this guy and I had committed that horrible crime, I'd hop a plane and be back to India or anywhere else as fast as possible so the authorities can't get me. So now no justice for the Pearson family. And who do you go after? The truck company that hired him? It's probably just some LLC that could declare bankruptcy, and that would be it. Whose load was he carrying? Who hired this trucker? He had a valid CDL out of California. It wasn't Washington this time. Do you go after Gavin Newsom? Do you go after California itself? Somebody needs to be responsible for this. Now, according to the press release, in recent months, we've seen a disturbing pattern of criminal illegal aliens driving commercial vehicles on America roads, directly threatening public safety and resulting in a senseless loss of life. Earlier this month, ICE lodged a detainer for Juan Hernandez Santos. A criminal illegal alien from Mexico is accused of causing a wreck while driving an 18-wheeler that slammed into another vehicle, causing a 6-car pileup, including with a school bus, on the morning of December 4th in Lacey, Washington. Are you seeing a trend here, guys? Local authorities did not honor the ICE detainer due to sanctuary policies, and he was subsequently released from custody. In November, ICE lodged an arrest detainer for Rajinder Kumar, a criminal illegal alien from India charged with criminally negligent homicide and reckless endangering after he killed 2 people in Deschutes County, Oregon, while driving a semi-truck. In August, ICE lodged an arrest detainer for Hajinder Singh, a criminal illegal alien from India, following his arrest for 3 counts of vehicular homicide while driving a semi-truck in Florida. In August, ICE arrested Partap Singh, a criminal illegal alien, you're seeing another pattern here, from India, who caused a multi-car pileup while driving a commercial 18-wheeler In the sanctuary state of California, this accident left 5-year-old Dahlia Coleman with critical life-altering injuries. By the way, none of these guys with the last name Singh are related. It's a coincidence. Let's remember, like Smith is a common last name here in the U.S. In October, ICE lodged an arrest detainer for Jaspreet Singh, a criminal illegal alien from India who killed 3 people in California while driving an 18-wheeler under the influence. How many more of these do we need? And here's something else, my friends. How many of these were there before we started paying attention? Mike, there was an accident on, I think it was in Kent yesterday, with a semi-truck. And immediately I reached out to, guess who? Washington State Patrol. Hey, can I have the arrest release report for these guys? Can I see the accident report for these guys? Can I see what's going on here? It used to be jackknife tractor trailer. That was just a traffic report. Now everybody is suspicious of every truck on the road. I had one of those moments today. I was driving in my Batmobile, my Dodge Charger on I-5, coming into the studio today. I like that there's less traffic these days. By the way, I don't think that's a holiday thing. There's just less people on the roads. And it just so happened, this was the worst situation. There was a semi-truck on one side of me, a semi-truck on the other side of me, and a semi-truck in front of me. You know when you feel completely boxed in? I said, if they want to get rid of the guy who's reporting on these, this would be the opportunity. Just do it right now. Yeah, I stay away from semi-trucks more than I ever did before. Way more than I ever did before. I never cut them off. I always gave them plenty of space because truck drivers work hard. But now you have no idea who's behind the wheel of these. And I know that our legal and our safe truck drivers that listen to the show are upset by all this. They take pride in their profession. They follow all the rules. They may not make as much money as some of these guys who go around all the rules and regulations, but they do it, and they do it safely, and they do it with pride, and this is making all of them look bad. And by the way, Bob Ferguson doesn't have a single justification for any of this. Doesn't have a single justification. Oh, Trump's a racist. Okay. Well, here's the thing. Your policies are killing people. Mike, when did we first start noticing this? I think it was back with Officer Trooper Gadd. I think it was Officer Christopher Gadd, when he was killed by an illegal alien who was driving 104 miles an hour on a I-5 in Marysville in the middle of the night on a shoulder under the influence and plowed right into him. I think that's when we first started paying attention. I think we first started paying attention to the truckers with that story out of Florida where Jaspreet Singh was the driver who made that illegal U-turn because he couldn't read the street signs and killed 3 people. And guess what? He got his driver's license, his commercial driver's license, here in Washington. Used it to leverage up to another one in California. How many more of these ticking time bombs are on our roads? How many more? We don't know. And that's the scariest thing. And Washington's just releasing them. I bet if you asked the Washington State Patrol, I'm not sure if you asked the Department of Corrections, I'm sure if you asked any law enforcement, they'd say, we don't want to release these guys. We shouldn't be releasing these guys. But they have to because of sanctuary policies, which is beyond crazy, beyond insane. Mind you, switching gears for a minute, we still have a shooter on the loose in New England. In Rhode Island, after the shooting at Brown University, while police have released pictures of the suspect, we sort of have an identity, but I am refraining from naming the person, and let me tell you why. There is a staffer at Brown University, it's more like a TA, I wouldn't call it a full-on professor, who is being scrubbed from the university website. Very, very quickly being scrubbed from the website. Just a little hint for everybody. This person is being scrubbed from the Center for Middle East Studies, and they're not Jewish. And I'm just saying they're being scrubbed from this thing very, very quickly. I will say all that video that is circulating, that has been released by officials, matches the, shall we just say, the structure and the general appearance of this individual. According to intrepid reporter Jessica Hoffman over at the Jewish News Syndicate, about a dozen references on the Brown University website to a student who JNS is not naming and who some claim resembles images that law enforcement released of the alleged shooter, appears to be scrubbed on Tuesday with the lone reference appearing in a PDF file of an annual report. Brian Clark, Vice President for News and Strategic Campus Communications at Brown, told JNS that in the aftermath of the shooting, we've seen harmful doxing activity directed toward at least one member of the Brown University community. Wait a second. Are they revealing this guy's identity because they're guessing? Or are they revealing this guy's identity because he's the right guy, and now you're saying they're doxing the shooter? It's important to make clear that targeting individuals could do irrevocable harm. Irrevocable, right? That's how you say it? No, that's not. Mike's shaking his head. Accusations, speculation, and conspiracies we're seeing on social media and in some news reports are irresponsible, harmful, and in some cases dangerous for the safety of individuals in our community. It is not unusual as a safety measure to take steps to protect an individual's safety when this kind of activity happens, including in regard to their online presence. Right. You guys have been through shootings before. Is that what it is? You don't want us knowing who this person is? Or is it there's a serious concern? There's a serious concern? As law enforcement officials stated clearly on Tuesday afternoon, if this individual's name had any relevance to the current investigation, they would be actively looking for this individual and providing information publicly. No, they wouldn't. Okay, here's what we know now. From witnesses who were there, the shooter screamed something before shooting. Do you think it might rhyme with Admiral Akbar? Do you think they might have been screaming something? But you won't tell us. Also, do you find it interesting that that classroom is normally occupied by a Jewish professor who's pro-Israel, didn't happen to be there that day? Do you think maybe there was a reason this person was screaming Admiral Akbar while going into the classroom, according to the witnesses, but you guys won't confirm any of that? Asked at a press conference about the removed pages, Peter Nerona, at Rhode Island, the Rhode Island Attorney General said that there are lots of reasons why a page might be taken down, particularly if there's chatter out there. If it wasn't this guy, you know what you guys would say? It's not him. You have the wrong person. Don't believe what you read on the internet. That's what you should be saying. If it is not this person, you should be saying it's not this person. Instead, that's not what you're saying. Quote, it's easy to jump from someone saying words that were spoken to what those words are to a particular name that reflects a motive targeting of a particular person. That's a really dangerous road to go down, really dangerous. If that name meant anything to this investigation, we'd be out looking for that person. We will let you know we were looking for that person. Stop, that's a lie. You didn't let anybody know who you were looking for, who was the first person of interest. Why would we believe you now? He said, I would leave it to us to identify persons of interest and let us run them down. Well, the last one you had wasn't even the right guy. Why should we trust anything you are saying? Law enforcement detained a person of interest who was later released on Tuesday. It published new images of the suspected shooter who killed 2 students and injured others on Saturday when the shooter attacked a review session for an economics class. The teacher, who also teaches in the Judaic Studies program at Brown, was not present at the time of the incident. What do you think was the motivation here behind this one? Just a guess. Now, I'm not going to give you any information on the background of the individual whose name is all over the internet right now, but I will say they were involved in the Center for Middle East Studies and was a student assistant, and let's just say they don't go to my synagogue. I mean, you can read between the lines and see what's going on here. They might go to the chief rabbi of Gaza's synagogue if there was such a thing. But remember when authorities said yesterday there's no threat to the general public? Well, now, according to the New York Post, a prominent nuclear science professor at MIT was shot and killed inside his home in Massachusetts on Monday night, with police very, very silent on the details. Nuno Loureiro, 47, was found inside a Brookline house. That's a nice neighborhood, by the way, by police responding to reports of a man shot around 8:30 p.m. He was rushed to an area hospital where he was pronounced dead on Tuesday morning. The DA said this is an active and ongoing homicide investigation. No further information is being released at the time. Brookline Police Deputy Superintendent Paul Campbell told local media that the victim had been shot multiple times. The death follows the mass shooting at Brown University just 50 miles away. The suspect is still on the loose. At a press briefing on Tuesday, law enforcement officials said the 2 shootings were not connected. They said at the time there seems to be no connection as it's related to that particular incident. Loureiro, a native of Portugal, was a member of the school's departments of nuclear science and engineering and physics, director of the MIT Plasma Science and Fusion Center, one of the university's largest labs with more than 250 full-time researchers. They said, our deepest sympathies are with the family, students, colleagues, and all those who are grieving. Focused outreach and conversations are taking place within our community to offer care and support for those who knew the professor, and a message will be shared with our wider community. The spokesperson said that the investigation is being led by state police, the Norfolk DA, Brookline MIT police, and said the school would not discuss the shooting further out of respect for the integrity of this ongoing investigation. Now, I hear that. I understand that sometimes there's things you can talk about, sometimes there's things you can't talk about, and sometimes if you talk about the wrong things, you're going to let the suspect know you know where they are, you know who they are, you know who they might be with. Brian Koberger, same kind of situation. When he was going cross-country, they were trying to get multiple looks at this guy, make sure it was the right guy. But 50 miles away, another college professor, another Jewish college professor? Methinks there might be a little bit more than a connection here. Just a reminder, yesterday when people were speculating on what was going on with the Brown University shooting, I said, yeah, that name that they have in custody doesn't sound right. This doesn't add up to some random white dude at all. This adds up to, I don't know, globalizing the enchilada. That's kind of what this adds up to. A little Allahu snack bar, a little Admiral Akbar, a little any of this kind of stuff sounds a little familiar. When people say globalize the Intifada, this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like. It's absolutely terrifying. And when people believe that there's some kind of wrong going on in the world and they can right it by killing Jews, where do they get that idea from? From our college campuses. Why are they going after people on the college campuses? Because they have demonized their Jewish students, Jewish professors, Jewish staff so much, this kind of thing is seen as normal when you dehumanize them this much. Seriously, this is a very, very scary point in our history we're looking at because it replicates other scary points in our history. You'll forgive me if I'm a little worked up about this. I've seen this movie before. We're just trying to change the ending this time. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. More revelations with regards out of Minnesota and the Somali fraud may be happening in other places. We'll tell you where when we come back. But first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast right now on the Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. We are keeping an eye on all the storms going on around here, but especially the flooding that's going on around here. Joining us now in studio from our sister station, from Northwest News Radio, the one and only Jeff Podula.
What, no senior political correspondent?
I'm getting there. You cut yourself. Now you don't get it.
No, I'm not talking politics today.
I know. I was just going to say the Poj Master General himself.
You know what? I can't.
The storm tracker,
Yeah.
the storm chaser. You need one of those black trucks from Twister.
Have you seen the sequel to that, by the way?
I have not.
Neither have I.
Yeah.
The first one was good for its time. The second one, from the reviews I've read, not so much.
You should talk to
You
Mike
gotta
about
talk
that.
to Mike. That movie
Yeah.
secretly rules. It's
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
Okay.
Mike
All
likes
right,
the
all
new one. I wouldn't bash that movie.
You know what you don't see very often? A disaster movie involving a flood.
What are you talking about? Have you seen The Day After Tomorrow?
But
There's a
that-
flood,
yes, I've
and
seen
then
that.
it
Okay.
freezes.
Yes, but
climate change.
but not focus solely on a flood.
There was a Noah movie. In fact, there were a few of them.
Well, that's more of a biblical story than it is a flood story.
Oh, I
but
see.
I mean,
I see. Okay.
Would
All
you
right.
say that we're having a biblical flood, Jeff? Is that what you're getting at?
Is it of biblical proportions?
now you're asking me to qualify the news.
Okay.
And
This is going very
I am not
well. Yes.
qualified to do that.
Okay, so since you're not qualified to discuss biblical matters with regard to the news, tell us what's going on out there.
Well, all you got to do is look outside. I mean,
It's dark out there.
I can't see
anything.
Okay, fair enough.
Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
Dark gray, and we probably don't want to have too much levity on this because this is devastating to a lot of people. Dark gray skies, absolute downpour, and then soon gale force winds.
The next couple days and even in the couple weeks, it's going to be challenging, and especially tonight or the next 24 to 48 hours with the heavy winds on top of saturated ground. You've got potential power outages, roads out, all in the middle of a flood.
That's Major General Gent Walsh, commander of the Washington National Guard. He says that's going to complicate restoration, rescue, and recovery efforts. And the forecast is calling for gusts in excess of 50 miles an hour tonight, 60 in some places. And what do you think that's going to do when you already have saturated ground? The ground can't hold any more water. And now you've got trees that are swaying back and forth in high winds. They're going to probably come down, take a few power lines with it.
Yep.
We've already seen some power outages, and credit to where credit's due. Seattle City Light was quickly able to restore thousands that were without power earlier today. So far, we haven't seen the big ones yet, but the worst of the wind isn't here just yet. It'll be a little bit later on tonight. So batten down the hatches and hold on to your hats.
Right. It's not just the trees you have to worry about. It's also sparking power lines.
Yep.
It's also what the wind does to the water itself, if it's pushing it along. And also, let's say there's a dirt levee, one of those type of deals, and it pushes it over or pushes over barriers, barricades. This is bad news, guys. This is very, very serious. If you're in one of these areas, I recommend you start winter break a little early, maybe go somewhere else. Jeff, tell us about Highway 2.
Well, I will let your favorite person in the world tell you about Highway 2.
Look, a lot of our state's underwater as we speak. You know, Highway 2, we don't even have a full, by any stretch of the imagination, do we have anywhere near a full assessment of the damage of that one critical highway.
Governor Ferguson says it could be months before Highway 2 is reopened over Stevens Pass. That will devastate the ski season up there at the ski resort.
So let's go through what we got over there. We have Leavenworth, which counts on holiday traffic.
I can say that's technically the other side of the pass.
But you could, I mean, it's going to affect it.
Oh, yes.
It's
yes.
definitely going to affect it. And don't forget, they had to cancel all the Christmas celebrations last weekend. Now you've got Stevens Pass, which means, you know, when you're going skiing at Stevens, you're going to have problems there. It means people are going to go, I'm just going to opt for Snoqualmie or I'm going to opt for Crystal. Nobody's going to be going over there if they can even get over there.
Well, and even when the storm first started to hit several days ago, the Stevens Pass ski resort was evacuated. It wasn't in business yet because they didn't have enough snow. But there were people up there prepping for the season. Sure. They were evacuated as a precaution. And that gives you a sense of just how bad it's become, particularly in the foothills of the Cascades and up in the mountains. Snohomish County, Skagit County seems to be the hardest hit areas. And with regards to Highway 2, DOT boss Julie Meredith had this to say.
Several areas on that highway are damaged and washed out, so the roads are not there any longer. We will need to rebuild those sections of highway.
Think about what she just said there.
Yeah.
The roads are not there. They're not damaged. They've not been washed out. They are gone.
They're gone.
And this is if you've ever driven Highway 2 over Stevens Pass, it is a narrow, winding, 2-lane highway on some very steep terrain. So it's not exactly the easiest place for construction crews to rebuild.
Yeah.
It's going to take a while.
Yeah. And, Jeff, is there any good news? I know you got to run, but is there any good news whatsoever?
No.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jeff.
How about no?
Yeah. No good news at all.
I don't want to be flippant about it because, yes, this is tragic, and we've already seen the death of one individual who in Snohomish County drove around a barricade and onto a flooded street and ultimately drowned. But we're not out of the woods just yet. We have, as we said at the outset, high winds, more rain coming. That's going to lead to additional flooding. Particularly, we're seeing stuff in Skagit County. Again, the Skagit River is expected to get to major flood stage later on tonight. And then, of course, we talked about the power outage. That's just going to complicate efforts.
Jeff, I appreciate you joining us today. That's Jeff Pogula for our sister station, Northwest News Radio. Guys, if there's one piece of advice we can give you, listen to the officials. Listen to the road signs. Don't drive into areas that are closed because you think your truck can handle
I'm
it.
not sure how much road signs can speak to you, so I would heed the warning.
Thank you. Yes, appreciate that. But listen to the warnings. If they tell you to go, go. Your stuff can be replaced. You can't be replaced. Jeff Pogula from our sister station, Northwest News Radio, thank you so much for joining us today. And I'll tell you something else, guys, with regards to all this that's going on. This is really no joke. It really isn't. I mean, we're making national news, but I don't think people realize how bad it is around here. You look around at some of the stuff. Our friend Carlene Johnson from the Center Square was taking pictures. I saw at the city of Auburn. She took pictures of a flooded gas station, which now means there's fuel in the water, which now means if that sparks anything, you've now got fire in the water. This is really biblical proportions is what we're talking about in some areas. The city of Auburn flew a plane over the devastation. It looks like what you've seen out of Katrina. It looks like that. That's what I'm remembering. Now, thankfully, it's a lot of rural stuff, but realize is that that's a lot of our farming crops. And that's going to affect food prices. That's going to affect people's livelihood. This is super, super bad. We will later on go through the politics of this. Right now, it's important. You follow directions from officials about where you should go, where you should leave. And also, make sure you have a lot of stuff in your house in case your power goes out. Be smart about that. Make sure your emergency lanterns are charged. Make sure you have a plan for people who need to be in a heated area. If you know somebody who's elderly, get them somewhere with a generator in case the power goes out because it's getting pretty cold at night too, and you've got these massive windstorms coming. If you have, giant inflatables for Hanukkah or Christmas, you might want to take those down for tonight, or your Mets home run apple might be done for good. Listen to the advice of officials. This is no joke, my friends. And don't forget, meteorologists are going to err on the side of bad because they don't want to be responsible for telling you, hey, we didn't think it was going to be this bad, and then it's that bad. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, no, I was like, you raised your hand. I was kind of out of gas there.
Oh,
yeah.
sure. No, I was just going to add, Ed, Jeff mentioned this up. We've had one casualty, one fatality so far, and it was the one person who thought they knew better.
Yep.
Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy.
Turn around, don't drown.
Exactly. Guys, if it takes 10 extra minutes to get home, if it takes an extra hour to get home, you're still alive at the end of the trip. That's the goal. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friend, including the latest on the Somali fraud and which state it was found in now. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, download the KVI app so you can enter to win tickets to see Toto with Christopher Cross and the Romantics August 18th at the White River Amphitheater. Download the KVI app for free in the Apple or Android app stores right now and get your tickets for Toto at the White River Amphitheater on August 18th with Christopher Cross and the Romantics. That's right. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so that way you never miss a minute of the show. Well, the question has been, how far does the Somali fraud go? And now a whistleblower has come forward in Maine to say that, yeah, it's there too. News Nation has a story for us.
I thought that we were doing the right thing this whole time. And the more I started digging, the more I started finding. And I just couldn't believe what I was seeing, that this was happening and that I was part of this.
Chris Bernardini spent 7 years working for Gateway Community Services, a Somali-American-led health services contractor in Maine. Bernardini alleges Gateway oversaw a system in which false records were filed about client visits. And he says they charged taxpayers for providing services that were never performed.
We started getting some clients calling and saying, months later that their client owed them hours. They hadn't come in for these shifts and stuff. But I had a time card for it.
And then they were billing for it.
They were billing for it.
In March of 2022, Gateway received a notice of violation from the state's Maine Care Services Program Integrity Unit based on an audit of records taken at random from January 2017 through December of 2018. Gateway overbilled by an estimated $904,000.
In your professional opinion, what you saw was fraud?
Absolute.
No doubt about it.
No doubt about it.
But Bernardini says when the pandemic hit, it got worse.
I started seeing bonuses, $2,000 bonuses going to these staff that had only been with us for 2 weeks, never worked a shift with a client. And yet the PPP loan comes, you're giving $2,000 away like they're lollipops at a doctor's office.
In April of 2024, Bernardini wrote to the Department of Homeland Security seeking whistleblower protection. They referred him back to the state of Maine. Nearly a year later, Gateway fired Bernardini. The company's founder and CEO is Abdullahi Ali, a Somali American who, while at the time serving as executive director for Gateway, last year ran for president of Jubaland, a state in Somalia's south that borders Kenya. Last week, he posted on X, "I make no apologies for building a successful business in Maine, working hard to earn a living, earning my PhD, giving back to my Maine community, and running for office in Jubaland. I am proud to contribute my hard-earned dollars to support my people back home." We reached out to Ali for comment multiple times. We even came to Gateway to try and speak with him.
Hello. I'm with News Nation. My name is... No comment? Is Mr. Ali here? Can we speak with Mr. Ali?
Republican State Senator Matt Harrington has called on Governor Janet Mills to investigate.
It's just an absolute insult to the Maine taxpayer. That we know that there's this Medicaid fraud going on by Gateway Community Services. We're seeing nothing from the Mills administration on this, and I think it's appalling.
I still can't believe it. I still can't believe I took so much of my time and put so much of my life into this agency that just tossed me aside. It's caused me to reflect a lot and, try to trust my gut more and speak up more when I see something. It's not right.
Now, we have reached out repeatedly to Mr. Ali, to Gateway behind me. We've reached out to Governor Janet Mills, the head of Health and Human Services here. We've even reached out to the 3 Democratic Somalian American state reps here. Nobody would speak with us. Blake?
Rich McHugh, live for us tonight, Lewiston, Maine, with that News Nation exclusive. Rich, thank you. Joining us now for reaction from Monticello, inside the great state of Maine. Representative Donnie Ardell with us tonight here on the Hill. Donnie, you've been listening to that, and thanks for being with us. Your reaction to Rich speaking to this whistleblower?
Well, I have to agree with Senator Matt Harrington, where the executive branch of Maine government has, apparently dropped the ball.
Exactly. How can this much fraud go completely undetected? You're either in on it or incompetent. Pick one. By the way, being in on it doesn't mean you're necessarily profiting from it. You remember how they got away with this in Minnesota for so long? Anytime somebody came a knocking asking what was going on with the fraud. They said, if you investigate this, we're going to smear you as a racist, and the entire Somali community is going to call you a racist because you're investigating black and brown people. You know what I'm thinking more and more? You know how the thing with Doge was waste, fraud, and abuse? Waste, fraud, and abuse are the bigger problems. We think government spending, $500 on a hammer or $3,000 on a toilet seat, whatever it is, right? I don't think it's necessarily mostly that. I think it's mostly people have found the cracks in the system, or people have found where nobody's paying attention and are defrauding millions, billions, trillions of dollars out of the system. If you found out that all of Homeless Inc. in Washington, King County, Seattle, was all fraud, would you be surprised? Of course not. I remember Bruce Harrell, when he first became mayor of Seattle, said he wanted an audit of the Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion Program. I was very happy at the time. When he first got elected, I said, great. Maybe he's actually going to do something. Maybe I was wrong about this guy. It got shut down before it even got started. Mark Solomon is still a Seattle City Council member for like a month, right? I think it's till the end of the year, till January. Have you heard him call for an audit of Homeless Inc.? Why hasn't anybody called for an audit of the Homeless Inc.? He's a temp job. It's a temp job for him. This was a temporary appointment. Why is it so hard to just call for an audit of Homeless Inc.? Because a lot of people don't want to admit what they are going to find. A lot of people don't want it to be found. If all this was happening here in Washington, would you be surprised at all? Of course not. I'm going to tell you something. If they're so successful at it, how come the problem keeps getting worse? They funnel billions of dollars into Homeless Inc., and everything's getting worse and worse and worse because there are too many people making too much money off it. Even the legit people at the top of it are making massive salaries. How much longer is it going to take before somebody wakes up and does a full investigation into all of this? No, it wouldn't surprise you if it was Seattle. It wouldn't surprise you if it was King County. It wouldn't surprise you if it was Washington. We've kind of assumed it was happening the whole time. And if you really want to get spending under control, realize is that it's your tax dollars. And you should be calling for audits for all of this. All of this. And something else, if you know of fraud or you think there's fraud or you have a lead on fraud, send it to us. ARI@KVI.com. We'll do the job the mainstream media isn't doing. ARI@KVI.com. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news headlines put a smile on your face heading into your evening commute so you can get home safely. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Only good news to wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And because it is the holiday season and the third night of Hanukkah, I am wearing another ugly Hanukkah sweater today. This one says, Happy Hanukkah, you filthy schmuck, which I like this one. My wife bought it for me. Got some fun ones for tomorrow as well. But this one here, Israel just published this, an extraordinary discovery in Jerusalem, a rare 1,300-year-old pendant stamped with the symbol of the seven-branched menorah, that's the one that was in the temple, was unearthed in a major Israel Antiquities Authority excavation near the Temple Mount. Testifies to the presence of Jewish life during the Byzantine period in Jerusalem. As if you needed more, like you couldn't tell by the entire Temple Mount. But yes, very, very cool. It looks exactly like the one you see on the Arch of Titus, which is all the temple treasures being carried away after the destruction of the temple. So very, very cool to find that kind of stuff. Speaking of coins, by the way, Mike found this gem for us from Fox News. A Salvation Army location in Vermont recently received an unexpected and heartwarming surprise. Among its holiday donations, the Salvation Army, a bar located roughly 6 miles from the state capitol, discovered a gold coin hidden inside a tape-shut dollar bill that was dropped into one of its Red Kettle campaign buckets. According to NBC, staff brought the anonymously donated coin to be appraised and learned it was worth $4,100. Quote, we are sincerely grateful for this generous contribution, said Salvation Army Bar Corps Lieutenant Caitlin Lyle DeLong. She told the outlet in an email. She added all donations assist individuals and families in our community by helping them cover essential needs, such as heating, housing, and nutritious meals. The surprise gift comes as Salvation Army works towards its $55,000 fundraising goal in that area. So far, the location has reached about 30% of that total, and the staff say the gold coin provided a much-needed boost, according to NBC. This Christmas season, Chicago's Salvation Army also received a batch of 8 gold coins as part of the charity's annual Red Kettle campaign. The combined value for those coins could be more than $10,000. According to the Chicago Sun-Times. The Salvation Army's Red Kettle campaign began in 1891, and from November through Christmas Eve, the organization's red buckets can be found outside thousands of storefronts nationwide. Sharing your donation at Christmas time helps the Salvation Army care for homeless and needy families, but also helps serve over 27 million people through a myriad of other services all year long, the charity says on its website. I just keep thinking of the Friends episode with Phoebe outside, where she starts getting pretty militant about her bucket. That episode, we've been getting complaints. I was talking to one of the Salvation Army folks when we were out there at one of the toy drives one year, and I said, what's your favorite joke about the Salvation Army? And she likes Frau Farbissina from Austin Powers, where she says she's part of the militant wing of the Salvation Army. She said she was so partial to that one. That one I enjoyed a lot. This one here has a sad beginning, but a nice ending. On Fox 13, 26 years ago, Tika Lewis was abducted from a bowling alley in Tacoma. She was just 2 years old, hasn't been seen since. She was there with her family and thought it was a safe environment. It was the biggest mistake of my life to bring my daughter there, said her mother. She told Fox 13 Christmas was her daughter's favorite holiday, and this year they decided to start doing things in her name, especially since they've now spent more than 2.5 decades of Christmases without her. It's been rough, really rough. Coming back here brings back a lot of emotions. What was once a bowling alley is now a Home Depot. On Saturday, the family held a toy drive in that very spot in Tika's honor. The toys will go to Marybridge Children's Hospital, as well as to kids in need, all in Tika's name. She said, I'm going to keep her name alive, not only for the community, but for myself, my daughters, and my grandkids. Tika now has 16 nieces and nephews she's never met, but who all know about her. Her hope, her mom's hope, is that when she's no longer around, they will continue to fight for answers to what happened to Tika and hold this toy drive in her honor. Saturday's toy drive was the first of many to come. I want to honor my auntie because I never knew her, but I understand she's gone and we're not going to stop till we find her, said Tika's 11-year-old nephew, TJ. He was there helping collect toys. These kids out there, they don't have toys, and these families aren't able to afford it, so we just want to put a smile on their face so they can have a nice holiday. Every child should have a smile on their face on Christmas mornings like my grandkids do. And Tika did every Christmas. The family is taking toy donations before delivering them. They're also collecting blankets and warm clothing for those who are homeless. If you would like to donate, you can reach out to the family on their Facebook page. And we will link to that over on social media in case you want to donate to such a good cause. In fact, I'll tell you what we'll do. If you guys want to text in some of your favorite causes this holiday season, you text them into the show, we'll try to highlight them. Make sure they're legit. Don't say like Ari Hoffman's Corvette Fund, nothing like that. But if you guys do have causes you're particularly partial to, not today because the show's almost over for today, but for tomorrow and for Thursday, text us some of the causes you're partial to during show hours, 3 to 6 p.m., right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI, and we'll try and highlight them. I know Mike likes the toy drive causes, so we'll try to highlight some of those, but if you have a particular cause you're passionate about, please text us during the show, 3 to 6 p.m., right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Or during the show, email me, ari@kvi.com. That's ari@kvi.com. And we will do our best to highlight very needy causes. Also, a good reminder that in disasters like what we're having right now in Washington with all the flooding, is that beware of scams. There are a lot of scams regarding helping out people in need. Make sure it is a verified charity, not Ari Hoffman's boat fund. Make sure these are verified charities that you're giving money to help people in need, because there's nothing worse than thinking you're helping and actually some scammer getting the money instead. And unfortunately, here in Washington, we are too familiar with scammers taking the money of people who are in need, who need it really, really badly. Also, remember to check your weather forecast and keep an eye on the media, on the news, not only to see what craziness, but also for warnings from officials about flooding. There are very serious concerns tonight. Major wind gales are expected tonight. That means trees coming down. That means power lines coming down. That means more levees breaching, and we've already had 2. So keep an eye, please, and remember, your stuff can be replaced. You cannot. And also remember, the only death we've had so far is for somebody who said they knew better than the signs. Don't be like that. That's going to do it for us today, my friends, but fear not. We will be back tomorrow with more insane stories and more exciting guests. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.